Don't open that door at midnight. You'll never believe what happens next. The clock struck 12 with a bone-chilling clang, echoing through the dim corridors of the Braxton house. It was a house notorious for its secrets, its mysteries hanging in the air like thick fog. The legends whispered by the townsfolk drove a chill down spines. They said once the clock hit midnight, something unspeakable lurked within those walls. Whatever it was, no one dared confirm if it existed or not. But curiosity was a powerful beast. Maya stood in front of that ancient door. It looked completely ordinary, the wood grain normal, the paint slightly chipped. But something about it pulled her closer, like a moth to a flame. A cold sweat trickled down her back. She recalled the story's strange noises, shadows shifting just beyond the threshold, and nighttime visits from people who vanished during the day. She hesitated, a lump forming in her throat as she considered the tales of despair surrounding this cursed entrance. But deep inside, a wild exhilaration sparked. What if, just maybe, she could uncover the truth? The air in the hallway grew thick, tinged with dread and anticipation. Each heartbeat felt like a drum, urging her to push forward and reveal the unknown. Little creaks in the floor seemed to whisper. Open it, she glanced back. Her friends waited in nervous silence, their eyes wide, breaths held tightly. You can't really be thinking of going through that, right? Jake murmured, his voice trembling, eyes darting in fear. The darkness beyond the door felt alive, pulsing with unknown energy. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a shaky breath, Maya reached for the cold doorknob. The metallic touch sent electric shivers through her fingers. She turned it slowly, and the door creaked open like a monster, letting out a deep, rumbling sigh. Darkness yawned widely beyond, swallowing the dim light from the hallway. It smelled foul, like dust and decay, but something flickered deep inside, an indistinct glow. She felt a surge of anxiety knotting her stomach. The air thickened as if the space demanded payment for entry. The moment froze, a silence so profound it screamed in her ears. Then, without warning, a chill rushed past, slamming the door shut behind her friends. They yelled, panic overtaking their faces. She was trapped. Heart pounding, Maya's instincts screamed to run. But the glow pulsed brighter from the depths of the room, calling her in with a siren-esque song. What waited for her inside? Could it hold answers to long-forgotten secrets? Or was it something far more sinister? The true horror of the Braxton house was just beginning to unfurl. Maya stepped into the room, her heart hammering against her ribs like a caged bird desperate for freedom. The air inside was thick and oppressive. Each breath felt like inhaling a weight. Dull light flickered above her, revealing long, cobwebbed corners populated by shadows that stretched and danced. What had she gotten herself into? The indecision gnawed at her insides, but the glow ahead was captivating, almost magnetic. The door slammed shut behind her, echoing like thunder in an empty sky. Jake's voice sliced through the darkness. Maya, open it back up. We can't leave you in there. Panic laced his words, a stark reminder of their only connection to safety. But as the shadows shifted, Maya found herself drawn deeper, ignoring his cries. Familiar warmth faded. The room embraced her with its cold certainty. She moved toward the glow, a sickening mix of fear and exhilaration bubbling within. It was a soft, inviting light that flickered like the dying embers of a fire, but it felt wrong, like it belonged to something that should remain hidden. As she approached, the light coalesced, revealing the source, an ornate mirror, framed in dark wood with unsettling carvings twisted in elaboration. The reflections inside shifted, morphing into scenes of sorrow and despair. Maya leaned closer, captivated. Within the mirror, she saw faces faded, twisted, their eyes wide with unbearable pain. She shuddered, recoiling as the images flared brighter with each heartbeat. A low whisper oozed from its depths, barely discernible, yet achingly familiar. Memories of laughter, joy, and warmth flickered by, then submerged under a tide of shadowy figures. She could hear it now, the echoes of her childhood, distorted and warped, as figures she thought she'd buried swarmed around her mind like angry ghosts. "Maya, get away from it," Jake shouted, pounding against the door. His desperation fueled her dread, but the mirror held her captive, a web woven from nostalgia and nightmarish reality. Something shifted within the mirror, a new image forming. The face of a girl who looked like her, but didn't. The other, outside of the reflection, smiled warmly, unlike the grotesque visages that filled the rest of the glass. What was this? What am I seeing? With each pulse of the light, she felt more connected, as if some invisible thread linked her to this figure. "Help us!" The whisper coiled around her mind, reality blurring. "Find us!" It was a plea, urgent and unyielding, yet terrifying. In that moment, fear twisted into something deeper, something relentless. Was it truly a plea for help or a trap waiting to ensnare her? In the eyes of that girl, Maya saw something familiar, a fragmented part of herself that shouldn't be there, wrapped in sorrowful chains. How could she be crying for rescue if she stood right in front of her? Before she could grasp the weight of the moment, the mirror shook violently, rattling the air with an unnatural force. Shadows surged, swirling around her like a tempest. She stumbled back, her heart racing, pounding with a primal understanding. Whatever had been trapped in here was ready to break free. "Maya, you have to come out." Jake's voice broke through again, raw with panic. But could she leave? What if whatever lay beyond the door was worse than what lurked within? Maya stood torn between two worlds, longing for freedom while drawn deeper into the reflection. In that darkness, the voices surged louder, carrying a promise. "You can save us. You are the key." The light flickered frantically as if warning her, pushing, pulling, demanding truth. What lay ahead was a choice that would bind her with fate, tethering her soul to the darkness of the Braxton house forever. Would she dare to take it, knowing the cost? As the mirror shattered into 1,000 shards, reality twisted anew, and Maya realized she wasn't just a visitor to this nightmare. She was now part of it. A scream echoed from behind the door, but was it from Jake, or something darker? The true horror was just beginning to unveil, and Maya's heart raced as she braced for whatever came next. The mirror's shards flew outward, glinting like cruel daggers in the dim light. Maya was engulfed in a whirlwind of crystalline fragments that struck with a sharp sting. Each piece held memories of her childhood, moments of laughter, and echoes of joy twisted into something dark and grotesque. She staggered back, her chest tightening, as if the very air around her sought to compress her spirit into oblivion. The moment felt suspended in time. Shadows danced and writhed, taking shape again, shifting into the anguished faces she had seen before, their mouths stretched in eerily silent screams. Pain washed over her, not just in the physical realm, but piercing her very essence, tightening its grip on her heart. She felt as if she were being suffocated by the despair of those trapped souls within the mirror. Suddenly, the claustrophobic echoes of Jake's voice seemed to fall silent, as a new whisper emerged from the depths, calling to her with dissonant familiarity. "Maya, it's not over. We need you." The sound curled around her, the way smoke might circle and curl through the air before dissipating. She shook her head, trying to resist the pull, but it was no use. There was a force here that she couldn't explain. "Fight it." This time, it was her own voice breaking through the barrage of pain and distortion. She remembered who she was. She remembered freedom. With a surge of determination, Maya clenched her fists and focused on the girl in the mirror, the one who smiled, yet held the weight of despair in her eyes. "I'll come for you. I promise," she vowed, half expecting the words to ignite something in the flickering light. The girl's expression shifted as the last vestiges of her smile faded into sorrow. "Maya," the whisper echoed, crystalline and ethereal now. "You must confront it. Do not look away." With each word reverberating in her mind, strength flowed into her. She darted toward the jagged edge of the mirror, reaching for the last shard that held the fragmented girl's gaze. As her fingers closed around it, a blaze of light engulfed her, the essence of the room around her shifted. The once familiar cobwebs vanished, replaced by walls that pulsed with a life of their own, as if the Braxton house was a living beast, feeding off the dreams and nightmares of its inhabitants. Sweet and acrid secrets fluttered in the air as something nightmarishly delightful unfolded within her mind. Maya. The door slammed open, and Jake hurled himself inside. But it was too late. She was already lost to him, drawn into the very shadows that craved her existence. The fleeting echoes of her name continued to extend into the void, a lifeline that faltered beneath the weight of darkness. Help us! A chorus now, the torment of countless souls pleading from the corners of her mind. The darkness began weaving tighter around her, and for every pair of eyes that stared back, there was certainty. She wasn't the first to be trapped in this house. But what if she could change that? Gritting her teeth, she summoned the fragmented energy. I won't leave. Not until I save you all. It felt like a wild promise to a desperate fate. Jake's face fluttered between the dim room's faded light and the fierce panic crumpling him from within. Maya, don't, but another whisper intertwined with her resolve, relentless and alluring. You've already chosen as the shadows closed in. She knew that whatever emerged from this encounter would not just change the house, but her very being, and she was not quite ready to face what lay ahead. In that moment of clarity, she realized she was meant to see the truth of the Braxton house, and it might lead to freedom or a deeper entrapment. As the darkness overwhelmed her senses, she felt a pull at her mind. A familiar gaze surfaced in the chaos. The girl from the mirror. We're waiting. Maya steeled herself against the unknown, but the question lingered. What awaited her on the other side of that chilling promise? The very walls of the Braxton house erupted with a cacophony of whispers, both haunting and nostalgic, as she plunged deeper into the curse of her lineage. The shadows engulfed Maya, their weight pressing down as if she were submerged in dark water. The whispers, once distant, roared in her ears, a cacophony of despair and longing that tangled her thoughts. Each soul trapped within the Braxton house screamed for release, begging her to understand their torment. Who are you? Maya shouted, fighting against the overwhelming tide of emotions. You know us. The voices twisted around her, echoing with an uncanny familiarity. We are your past, your pain, and your future. She couldn't comprehend why these voices felt so close, yet so foreign. Fear gnawed at her mind, threatening to swallow her whole. She remembered the girl from the mirror, her expression stashed with sorrow and urgency. Maya, they continued, drifting like smoke, fading in and out. You can still save us. With a fierce resolve, she reached out, attempting to grasp the thoughts and emotions that threatened to spiral away. I'm not afraid. I'm here to help. Her voice cut through the darkness, determined. Yet, shadows coiled tighter, and she felt a sharpness between her ribs as sorrowful memories slashed through her. Her mother's laughter, her father's embrace, moments of brightness that turned to blackness all too quickly. The house thrummed with energy, feeding on her anguish, morphing the echoes into something tangible. Maya. Jake's voice pierced through the storm, a grounding presence that pulled at the edges of her fragmented being. She could almost picture him there, hands braced against the threshold, eyes wide with worry. Jake. Her words consumed by the rising pitch of screams. The air buzzed. Ghostly figures swirled around her, each one a representation of her past choices. Some grinned, while others looked on with weary eyes, full of doubt. They trust you. Do you trust yourself? A voice hissed, thick with malice. What if I fail? She whispered, fear clawing at her throat. Silence. The command echoed, rattling the walls. The figures reformed, and a singular shape emerged, tall, draped in shadows, and cloaked in a heavy, looming presence. It wasn't merely a specter. It felt like the embodiment of her worst fears. Join us, Maya. Embrace the truth, it taunted, voice like jagged ice cutting through her resolve. You don't belong in the sun and laughter. You belong with us. Only here will you find your peace. No, she screamed, heart pounding in rebellion. I will never give in to you. To her surprise, the shadows recoiled as if burned. The truth of her own fury stoked the embers of her courage. With a deep breath, she braced herself, pushing back against the tide of dreariness. Come back. Jake shouted again, his presence a lighthouse in her stormy sea. With every ounce of strength, she reached for the light within her, the light that had guided her through the darkest of times. Inside, It glowed bright, a flame refusing to be extinguished. In a sudden surge, she flung the shadows away, illuminating the chaos around her. The faces of the trapped souls flickered, revealing their true forms. Young, old, laughing, crying, but all looking back at her with a shared yearning for freedom. "Will you set us free?" the girl from the mirror asked, stepping out of the shadows, now clearer than ever before. "I will try," Maya vowed, feeling the warmth spread through her chest, "but I need your help." The air shifted as their spirits converged, the brilliance around them whipping into a vortex of shared strength and hope. Just then, the house trembled, groaning beneath her feet as the world began to tear away. The brightness blazed, illuminating the darkness, and the pulse of the Braxton house weakened. But as hope surged, a sudden realization gripped her heart. A sinister laugh resonated in the distance, echoing ominously. "You think you can escape us?" This is just the beginning. Clenching her jaw, Maya prepared for the fight ahead. What if they failed? What if this was just another manipulation of the house? She couldn't let doubt creep in now. As energy coursed through her veins, she cast one last glance at Jake's anxious face, filled with worry and light. "Trust me," she shouted, her voice rising as the darkness threatened to consume them both. Would she truly be able to free the spirits trapped within the Braxton house? Or was she stepping into a trap far more sinister? The next moment hung heavy, suspense crackling in the air as they plunged headfirst into an unknown fate. The moment was electric, charged with a tension that enveloped them. Brightness surged forward, but it was merely a flicker against the consuming darkness that loomed around. Maya felt the air shift, a palpable force that twisted around her, hungry for despair. "Maya!" Jake's voice broke through again, desperate and urgent. He stepped further into the room, his silhouette a steadfast reminder of hope amidst the chaos. "We have to go now." She shook her head, determination flickering like the light she had conjured. "No, I can help them, Jake." The souls around her swirled, their presence a warmth against her cold fear, pushing her forward. "Don't let them pull you in," Jake shouted, his fear rising like a tide. But the shadows were relentless, a chorus of whispers blending into an anguished symphony. "Join us, become one with us," they begged, their voices haunting. The sinister laugh echoed in the distance again, sending chills crawling down her spine. "Maya, get out," Jake urged, his hands reaching for her like a lifeline. "Only together can we break this curse." She called back, her heart racing, each beat a drum of defiance. She could feel the weight of the trapped spirits pressing upon her, their desperation feeding into her courage. "You have to believe in me. This isn't just about you." Jake's eyes widened. "We have to get out before it's too late." Maya's resolve wavered for a second, doubt creeping in. What if he was right? What if she was just another spirit to be consumed? But the girl from the mirror stepped closer, urgency clear in her eyes. "The house feeds on your fear," she said softly, each word laced with urgency. "But there's power in belief, Maya. Trust in yourself." With a quick inhale, Maya squared her shoulders and turned back towards the shadows, her heart thundering with each beat. She focused on the light inside her, letting it grow until it felt like a beacon breaking through the intensity of the darkness. The whirlwind of souls swirled around her, their energy merging with hers as she raised her arms. "I want to let you take me," she shouted with all her might, and in that moment, her light exploded around her, sparking against the gloom like a shooting star in a night sky. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as the brightness enveloped them. Maya felt a fierce release, like a dam breaking, as if her pain was shattering the very foundation of the Braxton house. The souls surged with her, the liberation of their collective past drowning out the cries of despair. "Now," the girl urged, and the collective spiraled upward, their combined strength tearing at the fabric of the darkness surrounding them. But then came a shuddering roar, deep and guttural, shaking the house to its core. Walls cracked and splintered, dust raining down like forgotten memories. "You cannot escape," the voice roared, distorted and chilling, pulling at Maya's heart. "Stay with me," she shouted to the souls, gripping tightly the flickering embers of hope. The shadows merged into a singular form, the embodiment of fear and despair. It reached for her, long fingers extending with a malevolence that chilled her heart. You were meant to join us, Maya. You cannot fight fate. No, this is my fate, not yours. Desperation etched into her voice. She thrust her hands upwards, channeling every ounce of her essence into the light cascading around her. But as the sphere of brightness pulsed, a sudden jolt shot through her. There was anguish in the air, a cacophony of voices rising in protest. But one piercing note stood out, a scream that felt personal, familiar. Maya, Jake shouted, panic lacing his words. Instinctively, she turned, but what she saw sent icy dread creeping up her spine. A shadow, darker than before, had begun to stretch towards Jake, the very fabric of gloom ready to consume him whole. Jake! She cried in horror, a sense of urgency clawing at her chest. Could she save him in time, or would the house take them both? The thought hung like a noose, tightening around her throat as she struggled against the tide of impending doom. Maya! Jake's voice cut through the chaos, a lifeline fraying at the edges. The darkness loomed, stretching its tendrils toward him, hungry and insatiable. No. She tried to wrench her gaze from him, to focus on her own light, but it was impossible. Fear slithered through her, a snake winding around her heart. I can't let you, Maya. His shout cracked, full of terror, sending a ragged wave of adrenaline coursing through her veins. With a surge of determination, she summoned all her strength. I want to leave you. She took a step forward, battling against the air thick with dread. The light pulsed in response, flickering as doubt clawed at her mind. Moments felt like an eternity. She could hear the whispers again, persistent and insistent. Join us, it's your destiny, he can't be saved, no. She screamed, drowning out their ghostly pleas. The shadows writhed as though stung, shifting ominously with each denial. Believe in the light. The girl from the mirror urged, her presence a ghostly flicker beside Maya. The shimmer in her eyes held both conviction and strife. You can do this, but you have to believe. Maya's heart raced. She could sense the fear wrapping itself around Jake, like chains. Each moment spent hesitating felt like surrendering. The shadows coiled closer, a creeping dread I could almost taste. Stay with me, she cried, grasping for the invisible bond that tethered her to Jake. She released every ounce of her warmth, illuminating the space between them. The light expanded, clashing fiercely against the encroaching darkness, a brilliant clash of will. But then the shadows retaliated, swirling in a dark vortex, pulses of despair shooting through the air like vibrations from a cracked bell. You cannot withstand this. The wretched voice bellowed, reverberating through the walls. Maya felt a physical sting. It was like being struck. The walls trembled as the house rebelled against the brightness, every crack a testament to its hatred. Maya, Jake shouted again, his voice sharper, more pleading. Hold on, she yelled, pushing the light outward. Her palms burned with a sensation akin to hope manifesting. Suddenly, the entity lunged, all-encompassing shadow and fear, its grasp aiming straight for Jake. She felt a visceral instinct to protect him, her body a mere reflection of that willpower. No, get away from him. In a fit of desperation, she reached for her light, twisting the energy around her wrists and drawing it toward Jake. Together, she shouted, channeling everything she felt: love, trust, determination into a singular pulse of brilliance. It surged and exploded into the darkness, engulfing everything in its path. Then silence fell, oppressively thick. Maya held her breath, heart racing as she scanned the space for Jake. The shadows writhed, sizzling under the potency of her light, but his figure was lost in the chaos. Where is he? Panic clawed inside her. Jake! She called out again, but only echoes remained, fading slowly into nothingness. The darkness shifted uneasily, casting eerie shapes that danced mockingly in the pulsating glow of her spirit. Come on, the girl from the mirror murmured, urging her forward, but a new terror gripped Maya. We have to move before it comes again. As if on cue, a cold breath swept through the room, chilling her to the bone. The walls creaked, adjusting to something unseen, and she could feel it, a presence crawling from the depths, less of a whisper and more of an insidious roar. The glow dimmed just a fraction, a warning shudder she couldn't ignore. Don't let them win, the girl hissed, her spectral form fading even further. Maya's heart raced as fear tightened its grip. She was running out of time. But if Jake was lost, what hope did she have? Was this what the house wanted? To tear them apart, to shred the bonds of belief that kept them strong? Together, she breathed, renewing her spirit. I have to find him. But her eyes widened in dread as she noticed a door, half ajar, bathed in an ominous glow unlike the one she summoned. Her heart thumped loudly in her chest, caught between dread and another. Instinct, could Jake be behind that door? The shadows thrashed, sensing her hesitation. Don't go, you can't trust what lies beyond, they hissed, the chorus of despair rising again, but Maya steeled herself. Because you're wrong, she shouted at the shadows. I have to know. With a deep breath, she took a step toward the door. What awaited her on the other side was anyone's guess, but one thing was certain: stepping through would change everything. Maya felt the tension coil in her gut as she pulled the door wider, the ominous glow spilling into the room like a breath of wind before a storm. Sweat clung to her skin, the air thick with anticipation and dread. Would she find Jake waiting for her, or was this the abyss calling her in? The shadows behind her swirled impatiently, taunting her with dark whispers. You'll only find despair. Step back, Maya. Their voices were a menacing tide, crashing against her resolve. But the flicker of light within her urged her on, lighting the edges of her doubts. Jake, she murmured, stepping into the unknown, the floor creaking beneath her feet. The door groaned as it swung open fully, revealing a corridor that twisted like a serpent through darkness. Less of a path, more a glimpse into the other side, a realm where every breath felt like a struggle against the tide of despair. Stay strong, the girl from the mirror whispered, her form flickering like a dying star. Trust in the light. With each word, she faded further, but her presence wrapped around Maya, a comfort like a mother's embrace in a storm. Maya squinted into the void as she ventured forth, each heartbeat echoing in her ears. The walls were splashed with shadows that danced like phantoms, twisting and curling, ready to sink their claws into her. A chill tickled the back of her neck, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Then she heard it, a soft murmuring, muffled yet distinct, curling its way through the air. Maya, Maya, Jake. Her voice rang out, stronger, sharper than before. It felt like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. Help me, his plea was barely audible, threadbare and soaked in despair. Panic surged through her veins, feeding her determination. She sprinted down the corridor, each step resonating with urgency. The glow of her light flickered, threatening to go out just when she needed it most. It flared one last time as she turned a corner, where a heavy door stood ajar, the source of Jake's pained whispers spilling through the crack. She threw it open. The sight before her took her breath away. Jake was there, shackled in chains of darkness, wisps of shadow curling around him like smoke. His eyes were wild, pleading. Maya, get out. No. I want to leave you. She lunged forward, but an unseen force pushed her back, slamming the door shut behind her. Heart thundering, she spun around, gasping as she faced the shadows that writhed like a living entity. You shouldn't have come here. The voice was deep, guttural, a whisper laced with malice. I'm not afraid, she declared, her voice steadier than she felt. I believe in the light. Light? The shadow mocked. It's nothing but an illusion, Maya. You are nothing without your precious boy. Maya's breath hitched. Were they right? No, she couldn't let them slip into her mind, into her heart. Jake is more than that. We're stronger together. As if her declaration unleashed a torrent, the shadows surged toward her, snatching at her light. Your time is fleeting, they shrieked, voices overlapping like an unholy choir. You must choose. Save yourself or save him, Maya's heart twisted. Behind her, Jake's chains rattled, a chilling sound that echoed through the corridors. She turned toward him instinctively, his desperate gaze igniting her determination. Together, she shouted again, desperation pouring from her, fusing her light with the darkness to fight the bindings holding Jake captive. It swirled around her, and she could feel the pull of the shadows, dragging her toward a chasm of uncertainty. But as she focused on Jake, his anguish unraveled her fears. She shielded him with every ounce of her spirit, weaving together a tapestry of resilience and hope that extended between their hearts. Please, he whispered, real fear in his voice. Don't do this. It'll change you into, but before she could form a response, another chill rushed through the room, darker and more potent. The shadows swirled, coiling tighter, twisting her heart like a vice, their grip heavy and relentless. "Make your choice," they roared, but their demands faded into nothingness as Maya's heart surged with light. With a final shout, she took a step back, her hands raised as if to challenge them. "I choose love. I choose us." As the words left her lips, the air crackled around her. The shadows narrowed, their howls becoming frantic. The room shuddered and asked a chilling question that echoed through her mind. But what if it wasn't enough? And in that breathless moment, something dark and ancient stirred. Maya understood something fundamental in her core. She had to be ready for what lay ahead, ready to face the most terrifying truth yet. The shadows hovered just out of her reach, flickering with unease. What awaited her in the aftermath would change everything, and no one could prepare her for what was coming next. The air pulsed around Maya, thrumming with energy, a tension that made her skin prickle. The shadows writhed, and for a moment, she felt a crack of unease slice through her confidence. She couldn't back down now. Jake's safety depended on her. Together, she shouted again, and it echoed off the walls like a battle cry, igniting something deep within her. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if her voice had struck them. "Foolish girl," the voice boomed, now splitting into countless echoes reverberating through the corridor. "You know nothing of the darkness that binds him. Your love is a flicker in the night." In that instant, the shackles around Jake morphed into slithering serpents, tightening with each word from the darkness. "Maya," his voice trembled, spinning with anguish. "They'll take you too." She steeled herself. "They won't take me. I'm stronger than you think." Spurred by impulse, she stretched out her hands. The air shimmered around her, a desperate fusion of her light and terror, but doubt seeped in the shadows whispered that she was afraid. "Enough," she screamed. "Jake, hold on." She focused past the darkness wrapping around him. She envisioned their laughter, the quiet moments, the warmth of his smile. "We are more than this." The shadows shrieked, distorting into hideous shapes, reaching for her like clawed hands from a nightmarish dream. The ground trembled, and the walls seemed to pulse, alive. "You will regret this. One choice leads to another." Suddenly, the light around Maya flickered just for a moment, but it was enough. She felt the whisper of the unseen force brushing against her skin, luring her closer to the edge of despair. A shiver raced down her spine. "Choose." The shadows hissed, and Maya's heart pounded. Tension gripped her throat. The choice was not simply between saving herself or Jake, but now, a deeper question clawed at the back of her mind. What if saving Jake meant losing herself? But the moment fractured as Jake's chains rattled violently, his face contorting in pain. "Maya, please." Each plea was a dagger, cutting through her resolve. Pain enveloped her, but it was not just her own. She felt his despair like a deep current threatening to pull her under. "No," she cried out, falling to her knees. "I won't let you drown." Gathering all her strength, she pushed back against the shadows, standing tall amid the chaos. "I choose to fight. I'll break the shackles that bind you." Her voice burst from her, reverberating through the darkness. Gritting her teeth, she reached deep inside, feeling the heat of her determination blaze brighter. She lifted her hands, swirling the light pulsing within her, sending it out like a shockwave to cut through the chains of despair binding Jake. To her astonishment, the shadows recoiled, howling in agony. "No, this cannot be." The air around them pulsed with a dangerous energy, lifting her hair, deepening the shadows. In the tension, the temperature dropped, sending chills racing across her skin. "What have you done?" With a roar, the shadows lunged at her, feeding on her fear, the darkness surging forward. "Let him go," she screamed, tears stinging her eyes as the shadows clawed at her. "Let us go." For a fleeting moment, everything stopped. It was a brief breath in a storm. Maya's heart raced while the unseen force buzzed, prepared to strike. The shadow-filled air pressed down on her, threatening to suffocate the light. Just as she felt she could no longer hold on, a blinding flash erupted from her heart, a pure wave of radiant energy surging through the room. But then, something shifted. She sensed a deeper darkness lurking behind the chaos, watching with cloaked eyes. Something ancient and more powerful than the shadows enveloped in front of her. "What is happening?" Jake gasped, his voice blending with her own fear. And as that reality settled, Maya knew whatever haunted the darkness was far from finished. With bated breath, she wondered if she had just unleashed something wicked, something she could never hope to contain. What awaited her next? Maya's heart thudded against her ribcage as the blinding flash faded, leaving only a somber echo in the air. She could feel the shadows regrouping, their sinister whispers wrapping around her like icy tendrils. In that moment, her resolve began to falter. "Jake!" she cried, but her voice barely cut through the thick gloom surrounding them. The ground roiled beneath her feet, shifting like a living thing, threatening to swallow her whole. "Where are you?" she shouted, panic clawing at her. She had to find him to reach him before the darkness consumed them both. The atmosphere fluctuated, one moment heavy with despair, the next charged with a palpable tension that made her skin crawl. Shadows twisted and morphed, their forms blurring and dancing, feeding off her growing fear. The thing lurking just beyond her sight was awakening, and Maya knew she was running out of time. Suddenly, a familiar warmth brushed against her cheek, a fleeting caress that brought a memory rushing back. Jake's laughter, the way he held her close when the world felt too daunting. Fire ignited in her chest. "I want let this darkness take you." She shoved aside her dread, fighting against the fear that threatened to envelop her. With fierce determination, she focused her energy once more. "I am light. I am hope," she declared, lifting her hands to channel that warmth into a beam of radiant energy. The shadows growled, recoiling as the light splintered through the hallway. It felt heavy and electric, as if she were strumming the strings of the universe itself. But the oppressive weight of the lurking presence was palpable, and deep within, she felt it stirring, a force that made her blood run cold. "What are you?" she whispered, her voice shaking. Just then, a monstrous form emerged more than a shadow. It was an embodiment of nightmares itself. Eyes like embers burned into her, skin that shimmered with dark magic, and a voice like crackling thunder rolled forth. "I am the keeper of shadows. You have awakened what you cannot hope to control." Maya staggered back, instinctively shielding her face. "Stay away from us," she shouted, though her voice trembled with uncertainty. The air felt charged, ready to burst, suffering under the weight of her fear and resolve. "I am here to claim what is mine," the keeper hissed, weaving through the thick shadows, encircling Maya and trapping her light. "You cannot save him. Love is a weakness, a spark destined to be snuffed out." "No," she pushed back, channeling everything she had felt for Jake into her voice. "Love is strength. It is what binds us." With a roar, the keeper surged forward, the darkness swirling like a tempest. Maya's light flickered, threatened with extinction under the overwhelming force. In that moment of desperation, she felt Jake's presence, a flickering beam against the looming storm. "Reach for me," a voice echoed, but it was disjointed, coming from somewhere beneath the shadows. "Maya, please. Jake!" she screamed into the void. In her mind's eye, she pictured him, his eyes filled with trust, his smile igniting her spirit. "I will not yield." The shadows roared in fury as she steadied herself, rallying the light within her, releasing it with a purity she had never summoned before. The air crackled with newfound energy, pulsing outward. And just as the darkness lunged to swallow her whole, an explosion of light erupted, a brilliant wave that pushed back against the approaching shadow. Maya felt it reverberate through her, sending a shockwave that echoed back to her. But as the light surged forward, searing into the darkness, she caught sight of the keeper's face. A glimmer of fear, a fleeting moment of vulnerability, revealing the truth, something she had yet to uncover. Maya took a breath, her heart pounding with electric possibility. What casual deceptive game was the keeper playing? As the chaos settled momentarily, she framed a question in her heart: could fear be defied? And what secrets surrounded the keeper of shadows? Just then, the ground shivered as a chilling laughter broke through the echoing silence. "You think you've won? This is merely the beginning." As the darkness pulled back, new shadows emerged, and the weight of countless eyes fixated upon her. "Prepare yourself, Maya," the voice warned ominously. "You've stirred the ancient dark, and it wakes for its final feast." With her breath caught in her throat, Maya realized what if battling the darkness meant facing something far more twisted than she ever imagined. What would she have to sacrifice to save the one she loved? The darkness swirled around Maya like a tempest, shadows flickering and converging in on her. The atmosphere crackled with tension as dread seeped into her very marrow. You think you're so brave, but you don't know what lies at the heart of the Braxton house. The keeper taunted, slinking closer, its eyes flickering like dying stars. Maya's chest tightened, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm of fear. But she wouldn't let the shadows win, not now. All this fear, it only makes us stronger, she cried, drawing upon every ounce of light she had left. Brightness flared around her, illuminating the darkness, echoing Jake's name like a lifeline through her panic. Jake, I'll find you. With renewed resolve, she pushed past the swirling shadows, feeling the weight of their desperation as they snapped at her heels. You cannot linger here, the keeper hissed, reaching toward Maya, cloak of night trailing like smoke. This is my domain. You'll never escape. But escape wasn't the goal, not anymore. Maya hesitated, then said, maybe you're right. But I am not afraid of you. And I am not afraid of the truth. The words hung in the air as the shadows surged forward, darkness consolidating into an amorphous mass deep and filled with haunting eyes. The flickering light around Maya glimmered fiercely, a beacon against the encroaching void. I don't just want to save Jake. I want to uncover what holds you here. She squared her shoulders, defiance igniting in her veins. You think you can free the souls trapped beneath? You'll be consumed just like the others, the keeper hissed, its voice dripping with menace. Maya felt a moment of panic gnaw at her confidence. She could hear the whispers of countless trapped souls, their pain intertwining with her own fears. They can be free, she shouted back, her voice breaking through the noise. Just like I will be. The air quivered around them. Out of the void, Jake's voice pierced through, a thread of hope weaving its way into her desperate heart. Maya, I'm here. Jake, she cried, the sound echoing like a battle cry. She summoned her light, feeling the sensation surge from deep within. We can do this together. Trust in us. The shadows wavered slightly at her words, but the keeper's laughter rose, a haunting echo that filled the dark corners of the room. Trust? You're as naive as all the others. You think love can truly overcome the depths of darkness? Maya took a step forward, hands outstretched, light swirling into beams that cut through the suffocating gloom. Love is exactly how I'll break your hold. This isn't just about me. You want to trap us, but together, we are stronger. Then a shudder coursed through the room. For a moment, the shadows hesitated, caught between her determination and the keeper's malevolence. You're a fool, the keeper spat, but its voice faltered. What if? Maya pushed forward. The only way to truly defeat you is to face you head-on with the truth. The words struck like a thunderclap, and at that moment, the swirling mass of shadows stilled. What do you know of truth? The keeper bellowed. It is agony. It is despair. Maya breathed heavily, channeling every moment that mattered, the joy, the laughter, the pain, every fragment of her life. Then I will carry that pain. I will bear it for them. For all of us. The darkness recoiled, shadows flickering, twisting in uncertainty. She felt at the pull of the past, the souls trapped, and for the first time, the daunting weight transformed into resolve. I will not let fear decide my worth. I choose to remember. I choose to fight. With that, she radiated her light outward, illuminating the chamber in blazing brilliance, each pulse not just lighting, but tearing apart the constricting chains of the shadows. The keeper roared, the voice of vibrato of anguish now mingling with irritation. You cannot handle the truth. I already have, shouted Maya, her voice growing more powerful. The truth of love, of pain, it's all part of me, and it makes me whole. A brilliant burst of energy enveloped her, erupting from her core. Moments stretched in shocking clarity as souls began to flow around her, their whispers lifting, their anguish lessening. As she stepped forward, hands reaching for the darkness, light exploded from her body like fireworks in the night sky. Everything went quiet, in the stillness. A vision swept around her. The faces of those trapped by grief, moments of joy swirling into her recollections. The darkness quavered, the keeper swirling around her, fury clearing into a shadowy mist. And then, one resolute cry rang out, puncturing the silence. Maya, Jake's voice soared from the trembling air, merging with the light and her essence. Yes, I'm here. She reached for him, and as their hands met, a wave swept over them, a feeling of overwhelmingly warm comfort only a bond could bring. A bond forged from all the adversity they had faced. The shadows screamed as if feeling threatened, the energy flaring around them erupting into a kaleidoscope of colors, entwining and wrapping around the keeper, pulling it into a vortex of despair. No, you'll regret this. It howled, but Maya stood firm, feeling the strength of their love. Together, they cried, raising their arms, channeling their light into one brilliant beam that shot straight at the heart of darkness. With a deafening silence, the light seared through the chaos, igniting the essence of the trapped souls as they soared alongside. Freedom rippled through the atmosphere as the shadows erupted in an overpowering burst, scattering the darkness into nothingness. Finally, the quiet settled in, the air now warm and filled with stillness. Maya and Jake stood together, embraced by the echoes of laughter and joy mingling with sweet relief. The Braxton house, a place of despair, began to shimmer, remnants of hope woven through its walls, its shadows lifted. Maya gazed around, realization washing over her. They had broken the curse. I knew you'd come back, Jake murmured, looking at her with tears glistening in his eyes. Maya smiled, feeling the weight of the darkness lift, leaving only the warmth of love. I'll always find you, she promised softly, knowing now just how powerful that love could be. As they turned to leave the haunted halls behind, they felt the light guiding them not just out of the Braxton house, but into a future filled with endless possibilities, where love and hope would forever blaze. Together, they stepped into the dawn, leaving darkness behind, ready to embrace whatever came next. Now, listen up. If you enjoyed this wild ride of a story and don't want to miss future exclusive tales, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see what just went down. Your support makes all the difference. Show it now.